sharing ideas with you, and being in a privileged town like city like Toowoomba, I can see the multicultural activities, and I think I will share with my country people soon, because I took so many ideas from people. My presentation is the concept of positive peace and its relationship with the interreligious dialogue. I'm a philosopher, so my application will be focused on the ideas, and I will try to use my background on the studies on higher ethnology or peace studies to this application. I would like to speak shortly about two theories. One is the Norwegian sociologist Johan Galtun's theory of peace, and it says that peace is an umbrella concept. It means a complex concept that we can understand in many meanings. I want to take only two of them that he used. There's a negative peace concept and a positive one. I will focus on the positive one, but I will speak about the negative too. The negative means absence of interaction. It's easy to find peace if we don't have a relationship with the country or our people. It's isolation. This concept is based on a Kant's book that started with a kind of joke that says a churchyard is the ideal peace place, because nobody is struggling, nobody is trying to be violent with the other person. But I want to focus on this positive peace concept that Galton's offer, because it includes too many values. I won't read it now, but it's justice, equality, values that sometimes they are not easy to find agreements, because they are polysemic or multi-meaning concepts too. But all of them are associated with democratic policies in democratic countries. The other theory, conflict and peace, I want to speak about is from an Argentine philosopher who was my director, Ricardo Mariandi. He established that peace as a focus on the convergence, and he established metaphysical presupposition that it says conflictivity is before us. We need to deal with conflict every day. It doesn't matter if we are trying to find harmony or agreements or consensus. And he said that this is like a consequence of reality. Because of the plurality, he established that there is 4 principles that we are all the time in conflict. The dialectic one, that is conservation realization. For example, if we want to change something, especially if we are speaking about political town policies or different policies, for get a new change, we need to try to solve this conflict in a way. But there are some tragic conflicts. For example, sometimes upset one community entails a future conflict between the previous community and the new community. The synchronic is the conflict between the universal principle and the individual principle. When we try to apply a policy for everyone, it goes in conflict with the individual aims of people. So, trying to focus all those theories, I want to stress how interreligious and interfaith dialogues are useful for trying to find spaces of convergence in our global and democratic societies. Mariani says that even reason is not a non-contradictory concept. He says that there is a function, a dimension of reason that is skeptical, but there is another dogmatic. So when we believe in something, we accept something as a dogma, but not only religious people do that, but also non-religious people do that. When we believe that, we believe something, we accept something as a dogma. He is based on two appropriations of philosophers, German philosophers, Habermas, Jürgen Habermas, and Karl Popper, and they said that any dialogue should be involved in these three presuppositions: universal validity of what we are trying to say, capability of the participants, they should have reason or the ability of speaking and understand, and the third is the openness to critical evaluation. And this is a hard one because when we accept something as a dogma, we don't want to question it. So we can see how the conflicts appear in the very root of the dialogue. Another Norwegian theory, Lervik, says that we need to put apart the search of consensus and try to hear the other. It doesn't matter if we disagree, but we need to accept the voice of the other. The polyphonies of the democracy are the best way of a healthy community. For reasons he criticized Habermas for this search of consensus. If we made a dialogue, we don't need to get a consensus. We need to respect the other as a participant of the dialogue. For a reason I made this question, why the interreligious dialogue should include atheist people? Because of this aspect that Larry mentioned. We need to go beyond this duality between us, religious, and them, non-religious. For the reason I mentioned the contradictions and the conflict, even in the people that says, I'm rational, I'm atheist, I don't have any problem with this, but I don't want to be involved. Even sometimes, as a philosopher, 70% of my colleagues are atheists, and they are more zealous than the fanatic they criticize. So for a reason, I think we should make an effort. Even now it's a challenge, the interfaith dialogue, but I think we need to make this challenge bigger, even. Because we can find new convergences. We can try to find more spaces of dialogue that open basis of mutual respect, and it's a way to avoid violence. Because when we stopped speaking, we started to use other resources. Because we cannot do a negative piece. In our global world, we are forced to interact all the time. And the last. The open interreligious dialogue is one of the main resources to build. I believe that this is the only way, or one of the best ways, to improve the foundation of a positive peace, understood as equality, justice, same opportunities for everybody. So, for a reason, open the interfaith and interreligious dialogue to a concept of positive peace, and to the inclusion of the non-religious people in the non-religious view is positive in this way, allow to create spaces of convergence between different beliefs, establish a symbolic way of interaction as an alternative to violence or negative peace, acknowledge human diversity and enhance mutual respect, and contribute to the democratic lifestyle. In the same way, I believe that I was a member of biologic committees, and I think religious people should be included there. It's the only way to avoid this feeling of otherness is including and enhance the dialogue. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. And your chair's green because you made up 5 minutes. Thank you very, very much. We'll leave questions and discussion until after the Bishop's talk. I'd like to introduce my friend, Robert McGuckin. Bishop, welcome.
Thank you very much for your welcome, and Carl, for the welcome for all of us here at the university today, and for everybody else. That's all right. And thank you to Lucas for your discussion there, and muchas gracias for Pope Francis to the world, who is continuing this very much by the way in which he's living, is demonstrating this. I was going to bring my remote with me for. So that was the topic that I was asked to endeavour to touch into. It's a little bit out of my zone that I'm usually in. I'm usually perhaps reaching perhaps, but my teaching is more in school, teaching at universities and schools of law. But so just to give a bit of a context there, Pope John XXIII, they were the years in which he was the Pope, and John Paul II had a much longer period of time in which you can see that he was operating. Now, with John XXIII, when he was elected, he was, I think, 76, 77, and I think they thought, oh, this guy is just going to be knocked off the boat and he's going to be there for a little while, and well, that wasn't in fact what happened. I think with the working of the Spirit, he made announcements about a few things. He wanted to perhaps revitalise the church. He said he'd like to call a Vatican Council of the whole church. He wanted to change some of the laws of the church and a number of other things like that. So it was a little bit of a shock to people. He didn't see the council right through, which the council ran from 62 to 65, but he died in the middle of all that. But he really got the ball rolling with that. And in the Vatican documents, this was an important declaration, Nostre Aetate, talking about in our age, in our time, and it reflected on the church's attitude to non-Christian religions. Now, we might say, 50 years ago, almost since then, and it talked about this document, very crucial to the whole thing. And that's the first, just in our time, and day by time, we're being drawn closer together, becoming stronger, through relationship to non-Christian religions, promoting unity and love among people, indeed among nations, trying to have a look at what we have in common and draw us into fellowship. And some of these documents may well have been seen as ideals, but as time has gone on, it really has been something which has been brought to reality, and it happens very much in, I think, in our part of the world than it does in some other places. And Lucas mentioned about interreligious dialogue taking in non-atheists and the like too. Now, there is another area where bishops and the like, we are called to engage with those people, but it's sort of set as a slightly separate aspect for all this. It's the language you have to see, it's sort of hardly inclusive, although it does call the church on Trima and calls the people sons of the church. But anyhow, all of us do it by prudence and love in witness to the faith, promote good things, spiritual and moral, socio-cultural values found among people. So it's not just saying, which is really quite a change the church perhaps prior to Vatican II might have had the aspect of we've got all the answers, and if everybody else just followed us, everything will be fine. Well, I think it realised there was a lot of good values outside the church, and it's only having a look at the good values working together that in fact we all can actually advance. That's not always easy to forget the past, and we don't really forget the past, I think, and there have been in this whole question of interreligious dialogue, there have been some hurts there, but it's saying, okay, these things have happened, let's see how we can progress from this point of time. There shouldn't be any discrimination in this between people, between the question of human dignity and rights, and it's an area which I've spoken on a number of times, the question of the rights of people. And it's all very well to say, I've got this right, and just right over the top of the rights of other people. And it's something we do in society. We have to consider the rights of other people, and we also have to consider at times what's the common good in all this. And so often, I suppose, in conflict situations where I suppose are adjudicated and things like that, parties really can be pushing their rights, and they don't see that they're not individuals on their own. We live in society, and it's the question of rights of other people is something that we really need to be considering. So, after the council, it was decided Pope Paul VI, who I think was quite a very dynamic figure and perhaps underplayed, but he saw this as really necessary, and he set up a special department in the church and called it Secretariat for Non-Christians. That perhaps name was changed a little while later when John Paul II, he named it the Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue. And a number of people here are involved in those dialogues on a local level, but often even at an international level of meetings. And people from dioceses of the Toowoomba area have been to Rome. Brian, can you remember when it was, a couple of years back? It said 4 or 5 years back, a delegation leading, was it the mayor of that time in too?
Not quite sure.
Sure.
Personnel.
No. But it's sort of meeting together, trying to discuss how we can, in fact, work together. Now the goals of this thing is to promote mutual understanding, respect for the other person, seeing what we can do, collaborating with Catholics and followers of other religious traditions, to encourage the study of religions, and indeed to try and promote people who really are and who can engage with others in this very important work. John Paul II wrote a lot of things, and one of the ones he put the Holy Spirit in the life of the church and of the world. And I think, in fact, he scared a few people by all this, and of course, it really overturned the situation whereby the church thinking, oh, perhaps no salvation outside the church. It was seeing the presence of the Holy Spirit in the lives of everybody, and we can't control that or limit it to a small amount there. And in his document there, he quoted a lot of things in the Vatican Council. All people of goodwill, grace comes to them, unseen ways. It does talk about Christ dying for all of us, but we ought to believe that the Holy Spirit, in a manner only known to God, offers to everyone the possibility of being associated. And sometimes it's interesting when we talk about God, we have so many limitations in saying, oh, God can only do this and that. Well, once we start talking this, we've created some fiction for ourselves, but not allowing the emphasis that God should be able to goodness for all. Very much this dialogue's a two-way communication. It's not just saying, this is what we've got and this is what you have to accept. It's sort of the respect and trying to work together, listening to one another, speaking, listening, giving and receiving. Give witness to your own faith in the process of all that, and an openness to the other. And it's not a betrayal of your own mission of the church. And we talk about atheist zealots. Well, there's zealots within the churches too, I can tell you, and there's zealots of Catholics, even within the Catholic Church. Very difficult to deal with zealots, whether they're believers or non-believers, but in the process of all this, you're not portraying your own religion, you're in dialogue, you're trying to indeed live the message that we're called upon to do. Some 25 years after Vatican II, there was a document called Reflection on the Orientation of this, to have a look at how we are proceeding. And John Paul II in Assisi in 1986 said, he underlined the fundamental unity of the human race in its origins, destiny, the role of the church should be a sign of unity. The question of the whole significance of interreligious dialogue. At the same time, once again, we don't give up our own mission in the process of what we might be doing there. And the Pope gives explicit recognition to the presence and to the operation of the Holy Spirit in the lives of other Christians, which I think maybe if this was said 50 or 60 years ago, perhaps slightly unheard of. Bishops have a role to play, and this document deals with the role of bishops. And John Paul II says, he's mentioned on various occasions, there should be, it must be, the service of peace between people. You're not doing it just for the sake of it, you're trying to work towards the goal of peace and goodness. And the role, it says here, is very much directed to bishops. Interreligious dialogue thus has a place in the daily life of many Christian families. For this reason too, bishops as teachers of the faith and shepherds of the people of God must give it proper attention. And I have to say, I'm delighted coming to Toowoomba that reading up on Bishop Morris and what's been established here, it's a reality. It was a reality to where I came from, but I would suggest in some parts of the church that doesn't take place. I know in some international gatherings I've been, there's been sort of a great deal of caution about all this. This was a matter where we was talking about media, what you do in all this. Okay, you spread the gospel, you promote dialogue, ecumenical, interreligious, and maybe popes may well say this now too, also with atheists and complete non-believers in anything, defending the principles that we have, work ethics and a whole lot of things, and moral issues that which we may be working. But in the whole process of this, why are we doing it? Building a society which respects the dignity of the human person and is attentive to the common good. The notion of common good, I don't believe, was very well accepted by people who are so self-centered that it's just me, what I want, how I want, and when I want it, and they sort of roll over the question of where anybody else is. Well, that certainly is not the role of any of the religious gatherings here, or the community in which we live in Toowoomba. Well, hopefully all of us are endeavouring to seek to build a society which is open to dialogue, respects the human person and is attentive to the common good. I think sometimes these things are presented as ideals and so far away from us, but I think on a practical level within Toowoomba it is a reality, and it does work, and people are working together. I know in any support that I may have given in relation, perhaps in relation to the mosque in Toowoomba, I was criticised by a number of people, and so I don't know what I'm talking about. And I talk about, we have religious freedom. We must respect the rights of other people. We live in a society where freedom is paramount, Maybe in other parts of the world this doesn't happen, but here it does happen. So we are involved in dialogue with all the groups that are there. No doubt, in promoting the Holy Spirit, John the 23rd inaugurated the Second Vatican Council. Both John the 23rd and John Paul II up for canonisation in the end of April. I'm invited to Rome for that. Some of these things happen all very quickly. Perhaps I shouldn't say too rapidly sometimes, but whatever of those things. But anyhow, certainly I think John the 23rd was someone who got the ball rolling, who actually moved the church forward in this whole area. And the declaration of In Our Age of the Vatican Council started things happening. After the council, there were developments, especially in the teaching of John Paul II, calling us to continue interreligious dialogue in our age. And I think it's happening in this place in 2014 in Toowoomba, and I'm very thankful for the opportunity that I am in this place and that there has been established within this community that works, I think, so well together. There's a lot more I could say, but maybe some questions of that afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bishop. So we've had three speakers. Unfortunately, the Mayor was unable to stay with us. For those who have arrived since the Mayor's presentation, this presentation gave a great foundation, I think, for why we are having this seminar in Toowoomba. Toowoomba, as the Bishop has noted, has gone a significant way towards real interreligious dialogue, peace and harmony. If the speakers are okay, I'll open up the floor to questions or comment to either Lucas or to the Bishop.
Happy to touch on this.
There were three things that jumped out to me. The first was something said about dogma, and I wondered whether or not, or both of you maybe might comment on the role of dogma in a positive sense, because sometimes I hear something which I think is quite misleading, which is something like spirituality or morality unites, dogma divides. And although there's a truth in that, I wonder whether or not actually dogma, in fact, rather like good canon law, is actually a good thing. It can actually construct. And the examples you gave from, particularly I think, well, from both popes, where the interreligious dialogue is actually founded on a deeper reflection on the dogmas of the Catholic Church. And maybe that's something that needs to be affirmed. The second thing was what I guess I would call the reception of gifts. And I've been interested in the work that I've done ecumenically in what's now called receptive humanism, where we start from a position not of, when we meet together, of what we might have in common or what we might concede to one another, but what are the gifts that others might have. So as an Anglican, what are the gifts that I am diminished unless I receive the gifts of others? And I'm wondering whether or not that actually, maybe that was something I've heard from Lucas as well, is part of that being in the open space, that I can receive from my Buddhist sister a gift that actually enriches me, which is maybe part of my own tradition and culture, but adds to me and actually therefore enriches us. So maybe that's a useful thing. And the third thing on this day of 6th anniversary of apology, I wondered whether, Bishop, you might like to say a little bit more, or even Lucas, about the role of apology, because it seems to me that our Pope, since John the 23rd, have actually made some apologies, either very officially or in practice, I'm thinking particularly in relationship to the Jews, but perhaps also in relationship to crusades and other elements, and whether or not this is actually an important thing for religious leaders, not just Christian, but others, Muslim and others, to recognise the pain of the past, and that will actually release new energy for us to move forward.
A few questions there, Jonathan. There's a mic from time to time. Dogma is an interesting, sometimes people think a lot of things that come as stated are dogma. Pope having a look out the window this morning, oh, it's going to rain today. Well, that's not particularly dogma because, you know, in creed there are certain dogmas, but you know, we talk about the foundation, Jesus saying, you know, love God, love your neighbour as yourself, and it talks about we actually show the love of God by loving our neighbour, and of course, and it's meant to be a practical thing is how we put it into play. And I think sometimes some of the minute things about dogma can get a little lost, I think, and sometimes it's written in fairly heavy theological language, but I think it needs to get down to the practical thing. You know, how does this affect me? What do I do? I'm not saying you're dismissive of dogmas, though. I mean, and sometimes I think things are bandied or forward as perhaps dogma, which really aren't things, you know. We talk so often that a lot of the church documents, and other people might talk about this later on, talks about, you know, in time and place where we are, and some of these things have to be interpreted where we are, we don't know when that was there too. So in that regard, I think I just be careful. I'm not saying I don't particularly, I mean, it depends what we're talking about, where we are in relation to dogma, but I think it needs to be practically lived, and the witness of it is really much more important sometimes than the saying of things. We can say things, and it's in the area of apology too, we can say things in relation to apology, but it needs to be action to follow to actually back up the apology. It's not much as giving the apology is a good thing, but if you continue to not change the behaviour, well, you're just wondering about all that. In relation to the day of sorry here, there is established here the reconciliation action plan, and there are a lot of things sort of working towards that. So that's a wonderful thing too that Bishop Morris was involved in setting up. So there was an apology there, but there's some practical things happening as a result of it, and I think all those things are important. The question about sexual abuse things, there will be apologies given in relation to that, have been, and sometimes the Royal Commission, I think Bishop Morris, I think maybe appearing there the next week or so. But it's some of those things are looking at things in the past. Things have changed, but we want to make sure we really have changed, and that, and also that we've reached out to the people who have been hurt in this, and we can do what we can to. Some people have been so badly damaged. It's can be a generational thing. That's really difficult thing. Maybe Lucas might want to say something. Yeah.
Thank you. I completely agree with your opinion. I just want to underline some points from my field. I think dogma is like a word or a concept with a very bad reputation in philosophy, but any theory has a dogma, and when we need dogmas for living. For this reason, I agree with the bishop, especially dogmas sometimes are a way to the common good that you mentioned. Even there is a joke of a Polish writer, Witold Gombrowicz, that says, I cannot have a skeptical attitude and give change of $10. I need to abandon for a while the skeptical in order to live my daily life. So in a way, I think this is important to recognize that dogmas are useful, but sometimes we need another concept, philosophical concept, that is called epoche. It means put apart my belief only for a while in order to accept that the other could be different. Not try to impose. I feel sometimes like, especially from the other part as being an atheist in a group of atheists, I feel like I needed to accept their view to fit in. And I think this epoche concept, this way of put apart my belief in order to listen to your, or use the values of respect and openness of my own belief in order to understand and listen the other are very important too. But dogmas are we needed them for the daily life. I think even I see a different strength change in my country now with the new Pope, Francis, how people is trying to establish links with different faith, and some people understood their dogmas as we cannot allow this. There was a mass in a few months ago in order to a kind of apology for the Holocaust. It was in a church, and some Catholic zealots start to pray aloud in order to stop the mass. So that was a problem. I think when dogmas do that, we need to try to balance with the other dimension of reason. Have a little doubt or respect for the other. That would be different. And you mentioned that what we have in common enriches, and how we have different, how we deal with different problems even enrich us too. And I think, as Bishop mentioned, apologies are a great symbolic step, but they are not enough. But I think in a broad way, for example, some attitudes that the new Pope is doing, they are having a very good reception in people that is not atheist, but is not a compromised Christian, or especially Christians in my country. So I think those symbolic attitudes are very important, but yes, I agree they are not enough.
Three great points to start the conversation. Another question or comment?
Thank you very much, Bishop and Lucas. I think one of the proposals by Lucas is engaging with atheists or people who are not within necessarily within the religious domain. I think that is obvious because we are living in a society where people can choose to believe or not to believe. And for the common good, they have equal share in the community to contribute and probably to disturb as well if they want to do so. Like when we had this Tumba Mosque news published in the newspaper, I received congratulations from an agnostic. And he said, I don't believe in a religion, but I feel that every religion should have a go if they want to have a go. So that's very important too, probably. And it is more important when there is a sort of dominant group of that exists in a society. Like in Australia, about 20% or so, or more than that, has no faith at all. So and that makes it very important segment of the population. Now, if you go to another country where there's not as many, then maybe a different story. But when you have a significant proportion of the population belonging to a certain category, it's not wise to keep them aside and forget about them, but take them on board, and that might be the way to go. Thank you.
Well, that's very interesting. May I add a few more here, and perhaps would like to ask you a question, Dr. Misseri. It's given the interesting thought you just mentioned about the inter-religion dialogue and other comment. Can you hear me without this? Well, I thought I had a teacher voice. But anyway, I'll admit that now then. Yes, and other comments, very interesting about religion. Now, Dr. Misseri, I just wonder how far we are on the way to the inter-religion dialogue in Australia, considering that you talk about your country and you've been here for a while. It would be interesting to see how far we are from there.
I'm not sure if I can judge that, but my only experience was here in Toowoomba with the Multicultural Center, and I think it's really advanced. The dynamic of the group was amazing. I saw the openness I was speaking about, and I think Toowoomba should be proud of that. I think the problem, in my view, I have a little criticism, it should be broader. I mean, I'm not speaking about that I feel close to the group, but I think the repercussion is only as representative of different communities. I think that those meetings should be trying to be massive. For that reason, I think interreligious and interfaith dialogue and multi-faith centers should include non-religious people, because a non-religious person is not a non-believer. Maybe someone searching for his or her faith, and they should be represented in order to get the attention of a broader community. For a reason, I think I found very interesting, very advanced. I find the openness I was looking for, but I would like to see more people listening, non-specialists, non-scholars, listening and questioning. It's my point of view, but I think the activities are really advanced and open. It's my only criticism. As a philosopher,
So
I cannot avoid it.
Should there be a religion of non-religions at all?
I think an atheist people has values that determine their life.
Yes.
Even some of them are quite similar to some religious people,
Yes.
but they are forced to say, no, I don't belong here. But the need of religion, I think, is a human need.
Yes.
I witnessed that among my colleagues. Even once I was working with them and they said, oh, you believe in God? Please leave this group. We cannot stand a believer here. We are not believers. And I said, yes, you are believers. You believe in pluralism, you believe in respect, you believe in philosophy, you believe on the search or the quest of truth. So they said, okay, but because I'm not sure it's a human non-believer.
Yeah.
We believe in things. Even as philosophers, we believe that we are speaking with other people and not with our projected image of people. This is not a dream. I believe I'm here listening to your question. And that's a belief. And as those, we have many, and we have, as Jonathan mentioned, a lot of points we have in common. So I think for the next centuries, probably, we need to work in that, but we need to establish the foundation of that now.
I need to look for another term to atheist. Because an atheist in this room, and I'm sure there are one or a number, would probably be a bit nervous about putting their hand up at the moment. But that's a great point. Any other questions or comments from?
I wanted to get back to the discussion around dogma and poke into that a little bit more because, and I do apologize for my late arrival. But I don't know, so, especially in interfaith engagements, we often speak of dogma as if it has 4 letters instead of 5 letters to the word. It's a terrible term almost, and that dogma itself is a block to respect or understanding. And personally, I don't know. I don't feel I have the right, first of all, to tell somebody what their dogma should be or how they should engage with their dogma, which is what I often see happening. You know, well, you're too rigid on that. Can't you be more flexible? So, well, that's their philosophy. That's their life. That's their development. But also, from a personal standpoint, I like to know what people's standards are, or I like to know what they see as their limits or their framework or their structure that guides and directs their life. And if I really want to engage with them, how do you engage with somebody who in essence doesn't have dogma, who doesn't have something that they build their life around, that they see as an absolute? Are they wishy-washy, or are they yet uncertain and still trying to explore it or something? Or perhaps I have a misconception of dogma, but I don't see it as a block. I see it as an important foundation for understanding one another. And then from there you can begin to learn together and grow.
I see your point, Dr.
Brian.
Grant, yes. But you see, I'm the person who was attended Catholic school before I learned Vietnamese, that's where I came from. So I attended Catholic school, and then after a year, with all the teaching of religion and things like that, my parents moved to another town, and I attended a Buddhist school. And then again, another set of religion put on me. I grew up without any religion at all, and I feel free to take, extract all the good things from different religions to form something like Dr. Misseri just mentioned that, okay, that's not the foundation for me, but it is something that I can get from anyone. I'm just like a clean slate, that I can absorb anything good from that. And that just no religion that we should not discard. Just my view.
I absolutely agree. I don't see any contradiction in what you said and the use of or the acknowledgement of dogma in other religions. Yeah. I think that's pretty neat.
Thank you for that. Richard?
Thank you very much. I wonder if I could take up a point that Lucas made about negative and positive conceptions of peace, because I think that's very valuable. There's a great passage in St. Augustine's City of God when he says the Roman Empire looked around at all the enemies it had defeated, saw no more enemies, and called it peace. So peace is basically the devastation you see when you've defeated everyone else. And that's a wonderful example of a negative concept of peace, but as you rightly said, peace is something very positive. It's a work, it's a commitment. And in terms of interreligious dialogue, that commitment is clearly based on the beliefs that people hold. And as you've said, there are many kinds of atheists, but I think it is true to some degree, at least in the Anglo-Saxon culture, that for many atheists, peace can only be based on the absence of religion. When people stop believing in religion, then there can be peace. We think of the John Lennon song, Imagine there'll be no religion, and then there'll be peace. So certainly there's a strong strand in our Anglo-Saxon culture to say that peace can only be based on absolute. Whereas I think for people committed to interreligious dialogue, it's our beliefs. For example, for me as a Christian, it's our beliefs in Jesus Christ as God become human that is a basis for our commitment to peace. So I think there's a lot of rich connections there between the idea of peace and religious beliefs of various kinds. Thank you.
Yes, very interesting the remarks. I would like to reinterpret the phrase of John Lennon. If we include the non-religion people as religious or as someone that believes in something that we cannot categorize as easily as a widespread religion like Catholicism, Islam, or Judaism, maybe the concept of religion or the religious dialogue could be avoided. It doesn't mean that religion isn't there. I mean, if in a world that we can cooperate without violence and our faith is not questioned for another believer or atheist. We don't need differentiate religions. We can speak about humans. So I think it's not negative that we only need to recognize that everyone has something to say in order to set the values that we want to discuss in this dialogue to enhance our communities. So for a reason, I think as pluralistic or as much pluralistic those dialogues are better for society. And if Roman should integrate more the enemies, probably they don't need to kill them. I think sometimes those violent events that happen are rooted in the ignorance of what is the other for me. I think you have a point, but it's not. I only wanted to stress that no religions doesn't mean that we are not believing anymore. No.
You might go here, but I was just thinking as you were talking, that doesn't sound too different from what the Bishop was saying about Pagan 2 and beyond.
I'll be very brief. In relation to dogma and what Lucas has talked about, Raymond Pennecar has an expression, beliefs divide, faith unites. And to put that in context of our atheist or whatever, but like, in other words, faith, I'm taking faith as a human reality, whatever people's religious or non-religious beliefs are. And therefore, I actually think a better word is, I know the Catholic Church uses interreligious dialogue, but I think myself a better word is interfaith dialogue, because it recognises. And I also think that also brings, like, it's not dogma and ideas and concepts, like obviously they're absolutely important, but they're not all there is to interreligious or interfaith dialogue. It's a meeting of persons, not just a meeting of minds. Thank you.
Just on John the 23rd, wrote an encyclical, Pacem in Terris, Peace on Earth, but in looking at the full title of that, it talks about establishing universal peace in truth, justice, charity and liberty. Now, isn't that dynamic? Really, it's a dynamic thing. It's not a negative thing. It's really listening, dialoguing, and working through that. So, some others may be touching on that.
Some of us might,
Some of the research done in recent times in regards to St. Teresa, we're probably familiar with Teresa, the Dark Night of the Soul. In research, say, as she was dying or getting towards the end of her life, there was a concept that she had lost the belief in God because of that dark night. And whereas in Teresa, in her writings, as has been reported in recent times, many of the people looking at it, was the fact that Teresa came to the point where she could see whether you were an atheist, whatever your belief, whatever your religion was, you were part of that voice of creation, and therefore God, the Spirit, spoke in some special way to every human being, and therefore the voice of those people, no matter who they were, was as important as the voice of any other person. And in their final stages of her life, she realised that her particular position in the context of being open to God and religion was as important as the person who had no religion, because the voice was the same in all human beings, and we had to be open to each other to be able to hear that voice, so that the voice of God was the voice of creation.
William, you'll be wrapping up there? Modern tea takes over. But, thank you very much, and I think if we give a